Hey guys, Ethan Studios here, and as I'm sure most of you are aware by now, my Ninjago stop motion series, which started all the way back in 2017, has finally come to a close with Ninjago Genesis right there. So for me, it's only been a day since it came out, but for all of you watching this video, it's going to have been a full week. So this video today is going to be split into 3 different parts. I've got a couple of notes written down on here, but this video is largely unscripted, so be prepared for some errors as we go throughout. There are going to be timestamps in the description down below, but the first section of this video is going to be discussing the season itself, Crystal King, Genesis, going back and talking a little bit about Eternal Winter and Forsaken Kingdom as well. I want to give you some of my writing process and just some kind of behind the scenes aspects of those. Second part of the video is going to be future plans for my channel because I've had a lot of people saying goodbye Ethan Studios. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be making videos. Just this Ninjago series that has really been the bread and butter of my channel for so long is coming to an end. So I'm going to have to innovate, come up with some new things. We'll talk about that more later. And then the third part, of course, is just going to be the title of this video. Thank you. I'm going to be thanking you all and kind of just talking about some of the things that have happened over the years and why I'm so grateful for the community that I have built here on this channel. So let's just kind of dig right into this. Part 1 of the video here is going to be what I'm deeming the Unknown Saga, because the unknown was such a big part of Eternal Winter, Forsaken Kingdom, Crystal King, and Genesis. 2 seasons and 2 movies, of course. So the Unknown Saga. So if you're ever going to be referring it to that, the Unknown Saga. Anyways, with that in mind, I want to talk about Crystal King first, and just kind of give you all some behind the scenes on what happened there. The writing process was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever written before. Crystal King / Genesis, I believe, was about 75 pages in total, so just a little bit shy of a full-length screenplay. I'm going to be converting it into a movie compilation and uploading that, and it really does work better as a movie, just so you all know, because that's kind of what the vision was going into it. But anyways, it took me a very long time because I didn't quite know the direction I wanted to go. Eternal Winter and Forsaken Kingdom really had that epic vibe to it. You know, lots of action, big character moments, and that's kind of what I was going for. But I wanted to do something different with Crystal King and Genesis. I think just because this was going to be the last time that you were going to be seeing these characters here. And I really wanted to focus on that and bring a proper ending to all of them there. So certain things I learned along the way. I think the biggest one was never be satisfied with your script, if that makes any sort of sense. I mean, obviously, you have to get to a point where the script is finished and you start filming. But even, I don't know, like 6 months into filming this season, I think I was only at like episode 5. It took me a long time to get this season done. I learned that it's okay to change things because as you see the vision play out in front of you, your mind kind of realizes like, oh, maybe this would fit in well there. And I kind of wrote down some things that actually changed throughout the season, and in my humble opinion, made it quite a bit better. So first of all, Echo Zane and Skylar were never a part of the original draft of this season. I felt that Echo Zane kind of dipped off after Lost in Time, my very first season in 2017. And then Skylar kind of had her own ending of like, hey, I feel like I'm defined by Kai. I feel like I'm defined by this ninja team. I'm going to go off and find myself. So I brought both of them in this finale. I felt like Echo Zane was kind of a cool callback to Lost in Time. Added a little bit more emotional stakes with his friend Shade dying. He kind of brought some logic into the situation. And as far as Skylar goes, I think just having her be a little bit of a part of Kai's sacrifice at the ending scene when she finds out about Jay and Nia's child, really added a little bit of emotional weight there and kind of rounded out her character. Like, hey, I felt defined by Kai, but I still cared about him. I still care about his legacy. I still care that he was a very important hero to this story. And I think that's why I decided to bring Skylar back in the end. Plus, you know, it's the whole idea of, whoa, those were in season 1. Oh, they're back. Oh, this is so cool. Which, you know, nostalgia is always going to win. And at the same time, I really tried to bring some emotional weight into that nostalgia, so it wasn't just a cheap callback. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense there. The news broadcasts with, I already forgot the character's name, but there were 2 news broadcasts that I added in. One in episode 7 and then one in episode 9. Those were never a part of the original script. The reason I added those in is because as the season was going, I really felt like the flares kind of took a back seat for a little bit. I mean, obviously we start off with, hey, the flares have really ravaged Ninjago here. This is bad, you know? But then we delve into the characters a little bit for the middle half of the season, villains, heroes, all that kind of stuff. And you kind of forget a little bit about the flares, which with how big of a part they played in the finale, I thought to myself, okay, we need to have a little bit more clairvoyance here on the flares. So I did the news broadcast to kind of up the stakes a bit, especially with that one in episode 9 where like the guy burned alive or whatever from the flares. And that kind of brought back into your mind like, oh man, okay, as a truck drives by outside. Oh man, okay, there's something crazy. This is the apocalypse as illustrated by episode 1. So that was kind of the reason I added those in last minute. The other thing I added in very last minute, which might surprise a lot of you, is the 1 year later segment in Genesis. So originally how this was supposed to end is we get Lloyd's sacrifice, Zora introduces them to the Genesis realm, and then boom, we cut straight to Colin's monologue at the end, and that's how the series ends. And as I was going through that in the script, before I started filming Genesis, this was after Endings, episode 9, it just didn't sit right with me. It felt like too quick of a jump to a conclusion. So I really sat down and thought about it, and I was like, let's give each character their own kind of ending. So Cole and Ronan had that friendship in Forsaken Kingdom, brought that back at the end of Genesis with the 1 year later. Ronan was, a thief, scoundrel, smuggler, all that kind of stuff. This was just like a, hey, he belongs here now. So reestablishing that friendship, bringing an end to their characters. Nero and Zane was probably the most important one, at least to me personally, just because Nero and Kai became friends. Kai died. Zane felt guilty. But, we had the whole comeuppance with Zane in episode 10, Genesis, obviously. And I felt like that kind of moment of, oh, Zane, you never eat food, try a cookie, it tastes good. They're laughing, having a good time together. And it's like, okay, these guys are friends. They've bonded over this trauma of the loss of Kai, because I'm sure Nero probably blamed himself and Zane probably blamed himself. So for them to kind of come together in the end was something that I was really, really happy with. And so glad I added. And then the final one with Jay and Nia. Jay and Nia having a baby together, always was the plan. I mean, it's kind of a good end to their relationship throughout the series, is them having a kid, being a family, basically. But the whole thing with Skylar coming in and having them kind of be settled down in this cabin, that was never a part of the original script as well. I just felt like that was a good amount of comeuppance there, a very satisfying ending to that in general, and I hope you all agree. Moving on, I want to go ahead and talk about the villain of the season now, Kiro. So this is an opinion shared by both myself and most of the community members I've talked to that have been watching my series for a while now, that the Ice Emperor was my best villain. He's my favorite villain I've written. Kiro was not supposed to live up to the Ice Emperor. I think the main thing I was going for with this final season here was I wanted to focus on the heroes. And don't get me wrong, I still very much like what I did with Kiro. I tried to give him some depth with the royal family, him wanting the throne back, him wanting to avenge his parents who were brutally murdered by elemental masters. So I felt like, if anything, he was at least an understandable villain. Like, you got his motivation. And then when he completely demolished elemental masters and police officers in episode 9, I really tried to up the stakes and sell Kiro as this scary villain there. And hopefully I accomplished that. But he was never the focus like the Ice Emperor was. He never had an emotional connection to the ninja team like the Ice Emperor did. And that was the point. And whether or not you agree with that being a good decision, it's completely up to you. It was what I wanted to do personally, because I felt like a villain too tied to the ninja would just take away from their ending arcs, if that makes any sort of sense. Something interesting was that Kiro was never originally supposed to be the main villain. Again, this script went through a lot of different drafts to get to this point, just because I struggled so much with how do I want to end this series that I've been doing for 8 years now. It felt like a big deal to me personally, because the videos themselves meant so much to me personally, if that makes sense. But yeah, Harumi was part of one of the first drafts. She was supposed to be the main villain, along with the Overlord, of course, which we'll get to. But Harumi was supposed to come back, and I had this whole contrived return of how she survived in Hunt Down and all that kind of stuff. Very glad I did not go through with that, but it was an idea I toyed around with for I think a couple of weeks, trying to get that figured out. And I know when I announced Kiro as the main villain, a lot of people were like, hey, where's Harumi? You have the whole Crystal Council. Where's Harumi? Again, that was an idea I toyed around with. It just never ended up panning out, and I'm thankful for that because I'm pretty happy with how Kiro turned out. Speaking of Kiro, though, the Overlord, that was a whole other thing as well. I know a lot of my community members were very, very surprised when Kiro just ended up killing the Overlord. It was a very, very much a switch and bait thing because the series started out with Kiro getting the most screen time of the villains, but it was all in service of him bringing back the Overlord. And when that it did eventually happen, Kiro was like, nope, I'm going to kill you now. And if any of you watched Oak's theory video, Oak Animates, go subscribe to him. Great guy, by the way. I've had a lot of conversations with him. But I discussed in the Q&A portion of his video that I love plot twists. And he brought it up himself. He's like, bro, why do you do plot twists so often? And I think this goes back to a lot of my inspiration from film and media throughout the years. But I'm always going to come back to The Last Jedi. It's my favorite film of all time. Love it or hate it, you have to admit, it had some really interesting plot twists. And I just lost a lot of credibility by saying it's my favorite film of all time, but it is the truth. And I think the plot twists in that film made it very interesting for me because, again, going back into Star Wars here, The Force Awakens I loved, but it felt very generic. You get to The Last Jedi, you think it's going somewhere, and then it's like, nope, it's going this way. And as someone who watches a lot of movies, because I'm so big into film, screenwriting, directing, all that kind of stuff, I loved it because I felt that it did it right and it felt like it was justified for the characters. When a film brings in a plot twist that feels right to me, I adore it because I get really tired of seeing the same thing over and over, Marvel, at least recently. So that was kind of the whole idea with the Overlord. I feel like the Overlord himself is an incredibly cliche and generic villain. He's the literal embodiment of darkness. He's a dark spirit. All he wants is to destroy Ninjago, consume it in darkness. And I always wanted to include him in the script because I was basing this off of Crystallized, which is the official season of the Ninjago TV show. I just wanted to put my own spin on it. But I knew I just wanted to do something different with him because I think for the final season in my series, just a bad guy like, oh man, I want to consume everything in darkness, destroy it, would have been really, really lame. So that was the whole thought process behind the bait and switch there. Whether you like it or not, up to you. It's just a decision I made. I want to talk about Colin and Zora just a little bit here because Zora is an OC created by the Brick Rookie. Great guy as well. Dan, D. Tenaglia Studios, used him in his series, another great guy. DT also voiced in this season, which I'll get to the voice actors later. But anyways, the Brick Rookie created Zora. I used her in my series. And then Colin is an OC of mine. He came in Tides of War. Zora came in Sons of Garmadon. They were both siblings, son and daughter of Moro, which Moro died in Hunt Down, rest in peace. And then Zora overcame with just a lust to see her family. Like, she wasn't grateful for what she had. She had to have her father back. She had to have her mother back because she never had them in her childhood. And that led to her leaving the team. I know a lot of people were like, hey, this is a plot hole in Eternal Winter. Zora disappeared and never came back. And then I think, 5 years later, I finally finished Zora's arc in Genesis here with her coming back, saving the team from the flares. Something interesting about Zora was that the original plan was for Zora to be a part of Eternal Winter and Forsaken Kingdom. If you remember the final battle against the Ice Emperor in Forsaken Kingdom, my original plan was for Zora to appear as a ghost there, Moro to appear, an entire ghost army to appear and defeat the Blizzard Samurai. That was the original plan. But Forsaken Kingdom was already an hour long. It was incredibly stuffed with lots of character development, lots of plot points, lots of different things going on. So I decided to completely just remove Zora from that because I felt like it would have distracted from a lot of the other things going on. Um, Another original idea that I had was for Zora to appear at the very beginning of Crystal King and her be a character throughout the season. That never ended up panning out. So I eventually ended up going with Zora coming in and saving the day, kind of a deus ex machina, if you will. But yeah, that was the plan with Zora. Colin, him ending his ending monologue was always originally a part of the plan because Colin is an OC that has stuck with my series for almost its entire runtime. No other original character of mine has stuck around that long, so I felt like a part of myself was a part of Colin, and that's why I wanted to end the series with Colin. And he didn't get his happy ending, but he got a semi-happy ending, if that makes sense. I mean, his sister Zora, father Moro, and his unnamed mother are all in the cursed realm, which is not a great place to be. But Colin made the right decisions. He always made the right decisions because he was a good person. He was a hero. And that's why he got to end up surviving with all of his friends and get this opportunity at a new life, as did the rest of the ninja team, except Kai, rest in peace, except Lloyd, rest in peace maybe. We'll get to that. Anyways, Naiad was something that was not added until, again, around the same time as the 1 year later stuff. After episode 9 endings, I felt like Nia had been through so much in this season. Back in Eternal Winter, she lost her father, Ray. Kai died in Crystal King, as well as Maya. And Nia never really had that comeuppance moment, except for her having the family with Jay at the end. So I felt like her getting a little bit of revenge against Mr. E, the mechanic, Ultraviolet, who all assisted in brutally murdering her mother. I felt like her kind of, I don't know what the correct term is here. I've been going for about 17 minutes now. But her kind of just embodying her elemental power, fighting back against the Vengestone, Neuro showing that true power is never suppressed, no matter what, which I felt like was a cool message to share. And that's how Naiad came to be, and I'm really glad I did end up adding that. And that kind of ties into the whole idea of, I used to have this philosophy that once a script is finished and you go into production, you can't change it. That is your script. That is your vision. And I've really come to learn that that is just the worst advice you could ever give to anyone, including myself, because I gave myself that advice. If you are making a project and you see that you could make it better, or as it's coming alive in front of you, as does with stop motion in my studio back there, and you see maybe this needs to happen, or maybe this character is missing that, this story beat has a little bit of a plot hole, or the pacing's off here, add it in. Add it in. And if you don't like how it pans out after you've added in, you can simply delete it. But you want to make the best art you possibly can. In doing that, you have to be adaptive. You have to adapt to what comes your way. And that's really the philosophy I embodied with Crystal King here, and it's something I've never done with my past projects. I've always been cut and dry, this is how this is gonna go, if that makes sense. So advice to all of you writers out there, stop motion animators, filmmakers, adapt and adjust. If you think something doesn't fit, or if you think something needs to be added, even if you're in the editing stage and it's a whole new scene you have to film, do it. You'll be thankful you did. Okay, so let's talk about Lloyd here. This has been the most asked comment on Ninjago Genesis, which already has 100 comments, 4,000 views in like a day or two. So huge thank you to all of you. Again, I'm getting to the thank yous at the end of this video, but I'm just incredibly grateful to you all for that. The support's been unreal. But anyways, Lloyd. So Lloyd sacrificed himself at the end of Genesis. He stayed behind in Ninjago as it was destroyed by the solar flares. A lot of you were asking why he's just gonna die. So let's go ahead and explain that. Lloyd is the physical embodiment of light, because that was the first Spinjitzu master, but as showed in Genesis, the first Spinjitzu master died from the flares. And he told Lloyd, you'll understand everything when you make your choice. So FSM is dead. Master Wu is dead. Lloyd is the next one in line to be the physical embodiment of light. So having inherited that trait, he must stay behind for the realm itself to be reborn. So basically how that works is the Overlord, as described by Kiro, can never be defeated. He is the dark spirit of the realm, the embodiment of evil. So there's a physical embodiment of evil and a physical embodiment of light in Ninjago. Anyone who's familiar with Ninjago understands that. So I was trying to go ahead and give the impression that when Ninjago was destroyed, a new creation was going to come forth. And that's what Lloyd says in the finale. I know you don't understand, Colin, but a new creation will come out of this. I.e., Ninjago is reborn after it's destroyed, as many things are. I don't know, basic comparison. When a forest burns down, it grows again, right? That's just how life works a lot of the time. So anyways, if Lloyd leaves, the physical embodiment of light dips from Ninjago. When it's reborn, evil wins. Evil rules the realm. So Lloyd sacrificed his life for his spirit to remain intact. And then in the 1 year later section, when Colin is giving his final speech, we see a plant grow and Lloyd grow out of that plant in this new version of Ninjago. So Lloyd was reborn as the new god of this realm, as I'm sure the Overlord was reborn as the physical embodiment of evil. And one of the final shots of my entire series is Lloyd recreating his friends, because he's a god now, which means he can do pretty much whatever he wants. He is the new first Spinjitzu master, so his first course of action is making his friends again. Even though, because they're in another realm that he can never get to, the Genesis realm, and that was part of the point of that. But anyways, I was hoping someone would figure it out, because I really tried to leave it up to interpretation, and I was really happy with leaving it up to interpretation, but I got so many comments asking like, I don't get this doesn't make sense, what's going on here? So I thought I'd explain it all to you, and it really does make Lloyd's ending make a lot more sense, and it makes it a lot more of a positive ending, if that makes any sort of sense at all. So moving on from there, something else I do want to discuss is that obviously this is the end of my series. All of the ninja in the Genesis realm, that's the end of their story. I'm never touching that again, because I feel like they all got their happy ending. Now, with Lloyd in the new realm of Ninjago, the amount of ideas I've had come to mind of making a spin-off movie or a sequel series with Lloyd in this new world that he can do anything he wants with. He can make a new world. Has been flowing through my mind for probably 8 months now. Nothing concrete that I've gotten written down, no outlines or anything. And I did mean it when it's the end of my series. I'm never making episodes again, basically. And my life is getting a lot busier right now I'm trying to get more into short films. I'm writing theater. I'm doing a lot of different things to try and get my career in film started, which is part of the reason why I'm moving on from stop motion Ninjago series. But I think if I ever have the time to come back and do something, the potential is always there to do something with this reborn Ninjago. And incorporate it into Dragon's Rising, because I've had a lot of different ideas there. And my buddy Rudy, who voiced Kiro, has been very interested in writing that script with me, if it ever does to come fruition. I don't want to give anyone false hope, and I want to reiterate that this is the end of my series. This is the end of all of these characters that I've been writing for 8 years. And if I ever did come back and do something with Reborn Ninjago, obviously it would be a new Lloyd, because the old one's dead. So that's kind of how that goes, as far as we've moved into part 2 already here, the future of this channel. That's something that could happen. Don't know if it will, but you know, if a year from now I'm like, man, I miss stop motion, I got this great idea for a movie, it could happen. But anyways, future channel-wise, there are some different things I want to do. I uploaded a fake Ninjago minifigure video about a week or 2 ago at this point, and that one did really well. It's already at 10,000 views, which, again, thank you all for. I really enjoyed doing kind of random spin-off videos like that. I did the Ninjago minifig collection where I showed off like all 700 of my Ninjago minifigs, since I own every one. I've done like building challenges, commentaries discussing the actual show. All of that stuff there will continue moving forward because I very much enjoy doing those types of videos. I just don't know the level of consistency that they'll be releasing on. I think a lot of it determines how much my time is worth, if that makes sense. So if I want to spend 40 hours making a crazy analysis of Dragons Rising and I get 5,000 views, that just doesn't make up for my time, if that makes sense. So I think what I'm probably going to be doing is just not looking at views and just investing my time into projects I very much care about, which is, I had a blast making that fake Ninjago minifigure video, and it took me a couple of hours to put together. Stuff like that. The building challenges. Those take me a while, but man, I have a blast making them. Those will still happen. Commentaries, and I will do stop motions every once in a while because I've spent so much of my life doing stop motions. I'll be doing little battles, you know, like the Cinder versus Ash battle. I had an absolute blast. I keep saying blast, but it's true. I had a great time with that video. So expect more stuff like that in the future. I don't want anyone to ever think this channel is coming to an end because Ethan Studios is really a big part of who I am and who I have been over the years. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the future of the channel. I want to move into part 3 here, which is kind of going to be a thank you section. This is going to cover a lot of different things. First off, thank you to all of my incredible voice actors. All of you who lent your time voice acting in this season truly meant so much to me. I mean, a lot of it made the season. I mean, a lot of the scenes just straight out would not have worked if I hadn't had these incredible voice actors helping me out. All of their credits are of course, shown at the end of Ninjago Genesis. So if you're wondering who a certain voice actor was, go check it out, go subscribe, follow them on their socials, all that kind of stuff, support them. Yeah, I can't say thank you enough to all my voice actors. You guys helped me out so much there. I want to talk a little bit about inspirations for writing these seasons, animating, editing. I mean, as a creator, every creative has an inspiration. Even the greats, believe it or not. Everyone's inspired by someone. And I think that's what's so beautiful about art. And that's what I hope I've been able to do with this channel. If I've inspired one person, it was all worth it. Everything was worth it the entire time. And I truly do believe that. Because art can change lives. And I'm not trying to sound vain, like, oh, my art changed lives, but I'm saying if I inspired someone, maybe they're going to make something that changes someone's life. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what I love so much about writing, editing, directing, animating, all that stuff. Part of it is just the impact it can have on people. And it's partly because of the impact it's had on me. Watching movies, watching TV shows, reading books, all that stuff led me to make YouTube videos. I mean, I would have never made this Ninjago stop motion series if I hadn't been inspired. And I want to give a couple shout outs. As far as big name film industry stuff goes, you guys know I love The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson will always be one of my favorites. Denis Villeneuve, Steven Spielberg, of course, all of the greats, man. I mean, Christopher Nolan. None of this is new to you guys. Everyone loves these guys. Okay, maybe not Rian Johnson, but the other guys, they're pretty beloved, and I still think it's important to note that I was inspired by them. As far as YouTube inspirations go, the biggest one has to be Dietz Naglia Studios, as I'm sure many of you have been inspired by him, and many of my close friends in the community have been inspired by him as well. He was one of the first, alongside AL, to kind of really gain traction with this whole stop motion Ninjago animated whole series thing that they made themselves. And to both Dan and AL, who I was also heavily inspired by AL, I'm eternally grateful because, again, Ethan Studios probably wouldn't exist without them. And to be able to get both of them to voice act in this final season kind of had my inner child going like, oh my God, this is crazy, you know? And to be able to kind of establish friendships with both of them, talk to both of them, kind of pick their brain a little bit. has really been cool. So I don't know if they're watching this video, but if you guys are, thank you. I truly appreciate you for the time you've given me and for the memories you've given me. I mean, I remember being, 13 or 14 years old at a buddy's house, watching D. Tenaglia Studios Piracy, watching AL123's, I think it was War of the Titans, with Nauticon versus Yang. I mean, just stuff that as a kid, I was like, this is the coolest stuff. I want to make this. And another one that's long since left the community, never got a chance to interact with him, sadly, was NJL Productions. Heavily inspired by his stuff as well. I used to watch his videos on repeat. And he got to end his series the way he wanted, much like I did, which I think was really, really cool. So big shout out to Dan, big shout out to John from AL123. And NJL, I don't know your name. I don't know where you're at right now, man, but I am very appreciative towards you. I'm looking through my notes here. I think I've pretty much covered everything. This video is 31 minutes. I don't know how I've been sitting here this long talking to all of you guys, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. So if you're still watching, appreciate you. I think I just want to start by saying thank you to every single person who has watched my videos over the years. I mean, going all the way back to Lost in Time, Tides of War, when my channel blew up, I was getting hundreds of thousands of views then. Sons of Garmadon, Hunt Down, Plaguing Shadows, Eternal Winter, which is my favorite memories from Eternal Winter. I mean, how old was I? That was 2019, so that was 5 years ago. I was 16 because I'm 21 now. As a 16-year-old kid, getting the amount of views and support that I did back then, because I think I was averaging around 50K an episode, literally blew my brain back then. I mean, I can't help but smile looking back. And I had so many friends I was talking to, and I would talk to them, I would film. I mean, that was my life back then, because a lot of this Ethan Studios ties back into my health issues over the years. I have really struggled with my health. I was pulled out of school for many years. I had to homeschool because I was just too sick to go to school. I have chronic health conditions, which means my weight fluctuates like crazy. I get headaches. I have constant fatigue. I can't go out and do stuff all the time. And a lot of that led to me just being at home in bed all the time and being like, well, what am I going to do? Oh man, Lego stop motion, that's kind of cool. And boom, that's how I had the time to do that all of these years. Was because of the sickness, the chronic health issues that I've struggled with over the years. I mean, I think I mentioned this. I even went out of state to a residential home for about 3 months to try and just get some intensive treatment to try and get myself feeling better. And I remember days, I also took a 2-year break from YouTube because I was so sick. And I just remember days laying in bed, just being sick and looking back at your guys' comments and just being like, okay, I can make it. I can keep going. And that I eternally grateful for. That's really a big part of what's helped me push through all of my health issues, is not only the ability to make these videos, but the blessing of having people watching them and commenting and liking and messaging me. Ethan, this video was awesome. Ethan, what's going to happen next? So thank you, truly. I was really tearing up at that final speech I made for Genesis, just thanking you all, because this has been a big part of who I am. I mean, even my friends will joke around and just call me Ethan Studios sometimes because it's a big part of who I am. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you to all of you. I mean, I was even getting comments on Genesis saying, thanks for making my childhood better. You were a big part of my childhood. And I gotta be quite honest, like, I can't really fathom, like, does that make sense? Like, I can't fathom having that much of an impact on someone. It's just something I'm very grateful for. And I'm so glad that, like, I pushed through the health issues, because even if I'm having a hard time, like maybe I made someone's day a little bit brighter along the way. And I'm getting a little emotional here, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And I think it just goes to show how much this channel means to me and why it's going to be so hard to say goodbye, at least to the bread and butter of my channel, which has been my series. Of course, the channel is not ending. I don't want it to ever end. I'll still be making videos, so please stick around. But just this series has been who I am, a big part of who I am. So to know that I wasn't the only one it meant something to is a really special feeling, and something I don't take for granted at all. And I know I always say thank you to you guys. I just don't really know how else to give back to my community other than just telling you I appreciate you guys. I love each and every one of you. You all have been so kind to me. Throughout the years of being sick, I got a lot of people reaching out to me, sending me prayers, blessings, hoping for me to feel better. And I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget any of this. I'm going to be 80 years old, God willing, if I make it to 80 years old, and thinking back on all these years and all these memories. I want to take a little extra time here at the end to just kind of shout out some of the friends I've made over the years as well. And most of these are going to be older friends. I've been making a lot of newer friends in the Ninjago community lately. So if you're not mentioned here, it's just because we're still starting the friendship. And I plan to keep talking to all of you guys throughout all the years. But I just want to give a shout out to a particular brick filming group that I was a part of. I remember they invited me back. This was when my Sons of Garmadon finale premiered back in 2018. A group of brick filmers invited me. They're like, hey, Ethan, we like your stuff. You seem like a cool dude. Do you want to join our group chat over on Google Hangouts? Rest in peace, Google Hangouts. But I believe it was Mitchell O Studios who extended the invite to me. And he was my closest friend on YouTube for quite a while. Hunt Down, Plaguing Shadows, and Eternal Winter, him and I called almost every day. We don't really talk much these days. He's kind of moved on to another stage in life. He doesn't do YouTube. He's not huge into Lego like he used to be. But I just want to say that my friendship with him during that time meant a lot to me, as well as the rest of the group that I was in, CA Zach Studios, who no longer makes videos either, but I still keep in contact with him quite frequently. He voiced Neuro and the Overlord in The Crystal King. Absolutely carried the Neuro character. I mean, writing the script, I was like, Neuro's just kind of a throwaway character. But watching back, I'm like, this guy has some emotional weight in his voice acting, especially during Kai's death. So big shout out to Zach for that. He's just been a great friend to talk to over the years. I've run ideas by him before, and him and I will exchange scripts and kind of help each other out that way. Brick Filmer 125 was also in this chat. Him and I he's the only person from this chat that I've met in person. Him and I met at a Lego convention, and then we went and watched a movie at a theater afterwards, and just kind of hung out, the two of us. We also went to the Lego store. But really good times there. It was so cool. He's such a friendly guy. Him and I have called over the years, just kept each other updated on life. Rick, as a lot of his friends and myself included, call him. So big shout out to Brick Filmer 125, and he's lent his voice for certain roles throughout my series over the years. Most recently, just a Snake side character in Genesis. Next up is Mike RM Productions. Him and I used to call quite a bit back in the day. He doesn't upload as much as he used to. He's been a big part of my friendship in this group chat. So big shout out to Mike, and his videos used to do crazy numbers. I remember talking with him about those videos and just being like, Mike, you got to tell me, how are you getting so many views? And I remember he'd try and help me out. He'd be like, okay, this thumbnail, or okay, this is the topic that worked for me. So big shout out to Mike there. Next up, we have SBI Studios. He's still uploading. He's actually working on a Crystallized season right now as well. Makes me feel a little bit better that I'm not the only one who is still doing Crystallized. But SBI has been such a kind person to me. I mean, he has such a good heart. He's reached out and told me he's praying for me when I've been struggling with my health throughout the years. And he's contributed to some side character voices throughout my series as well. And again, just another great guy to chat with over the years. Yeah, those are my friends from that Brick Filming group chat. And that chat has been a thing since 2018. They might have started it earlier, but that's when I joined. So I've known these guys for 6 years, and they've really helped keep my passion alive for stop motion and for Ninjago in general. I guess another last thanks I want to say is to Tommy Andreasen and the entire team for Ninjago. I know he doesn't work for Ninjago anymore, but the inspiration, I mean, again, none of this would exist without them. I mean, they made Ninjago. A show that I'm 21 years old and I still watched. And I'm trying to think, I was 8 years old when I started watching Ninjago, and now 13 years later, I still watch it. So shout out to them. It's been a huge creative inspiration for me as well. And shout out to my community. Thank you, all of you guys. For those of you that have reached out to me, said kind words, had discussions with me over in the DMs on Instagram, you know who you are. You know I appreciate you. For my future going forward, I still deal with my health issues. I've kind of gotten to the point where I've said, screw it. I'm not going to lay in bed all day anymore. I'm going to push myself to go out and do things, even though I don't feel well. And that's a feeling I'm very thankful to be harnessing right now. And I do hold out hope for the day that these health issues do finally get under control. And of course, I'll keep you all updated there because I have been for so long and you all have been so supportive. So thank you for the 1000th time. Going forward, I'm really trying to just get into the film industry. I've enjoyed telling these stories through animation for so long, but I'm ready to do bigger scale stories. I'm ready to do films. Whether I be a screenwriter, director, I just want to have some kind of involvement in the film industry and continue to try and make an impact on others' lives, because film has made such an impact on me that I want to share that love with others and hopefully impact them as well, just as I've been able to do through YouTube here. So this has been a crazy long video. If you've made it to the end here, I mean, God bless you. Thank you for sticking with me on this journey for so long. And I'm so looking forward to my future, the future of this channel, and the future of just continuing to keep in contact with so many of you, because I've truly enjoyed just talking to all of these members of the community. If you have any questions for me, anything you want to talk about, leave it in the comments, or you can go DM me on Instagram at EthanStudios1. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Love you all.